we started a new chapter yesterday in Tanya, right? I think it's what is it, 38? I think it's chapter 38. So we've been learning about mitzvahs without kavana, right? If you have intent or you don't have intent when doing the mitzvah. We started talking about an interesting topic of the difference between a neshama, a soul, that everything in the world has a soul, right? We started talking about that not just does your body have the soul, but your physical body actually has a soul itself. So there's the soul that goes in the body, but then there is the energy of the body itself, which brings the body into existence. There's a soul just to anything that exists, even inanimate objects, even rocks. The energy that makes it exist is the soul of every physical thing. So here we go. Even though b'bchinas hester panim, so anything that enters our world, right? Anything that enters our physical world has to go through the curtain that covers over the energy coming into our world, which means it's going to be hidden. It's going to be limited. So there's a very powerful veil of darkness that's hiding godliness for anything to make it into our universe, anything to make it into our world. It's like the ozone layer, the ozone layer. The ozone layer blocks the sunlight from coming in. So there's also a spiritual ozone layer that blocks anything that wants to come in there from coming in. So you'd ask the question then, if there's one system that's blocking everything from coming in, why isn't everything the same dark? In other words, we will see, though, some things look more connected than others. Some things look more alive than others. Let's see. And this ozone layer, which is the clothing, that the curtains that hide godliness from being revealed, and anything that enters our world, right? That hides godliness from anything from entering our world. Let me just see if Josh Bieber wants to join us. Josh, you want to join us?
What's that?
We're in the middle of class. You can join us if you want.
Oh, all right. I just want to let you know we're going to be doing another overnight, so I'm not going to be able to make it tomorrow morning.
Okay, no problem. No worries, Josh. Take care.
All right?
Yeah.
I'll get up on class. I'll get in the class. I didn't realize what was going on.
No worries. We're doing the Tuesday night class if you want to join us. Sure. Okay, cool.
That's right. It's Tuesday. Oh.
Tuesday night.
Yeah. Okay. I'm joining
Okay,
right now.
jump in. Good, cool. So there's one curtain, there's one ozone layer that blocks anything that wants to be in the physical existence of our world. It's not, we can't see godliness anymore. It's covering it. It's hidden. Now, the body and the soul are both in our world, which means they had to go past this curtain. So anything that was, and they were both created by God's mouth, which means God created both of them, but they had to go through this hidden, hiding, covering in order for them to enter our world. With hiding, what does it mean hiding? It means that you can't see anymore that God, the direct energy that God's creating them. And to get to our world, that had to go through layers and layers and coverings and coverings and clothes in order for it to, tremendous amount of them to be covered and hidden, that you can't see Hashem, so it could be in our hidden world, that Hashem's not revealed. Till it goes through the covering, the ozone layer of our world. And what is that? That's what we call klipas noiga, right? That's the translucent husk. That means that, like the grape shell, the way we explain it, like the grape shell, that it means it's covering godliness, but it's not complete evil. It's just covering Hashem. It's kind of neutral, right? Like everything in the world could be used for good or bad because it's kind of neutral, right? A cell phone is neutral. You don't see Hashem in it, but it also doesn't have to be used for bad. You could also use it for good. Which means all permitted, pure things in our world. The truth is, there are bad, there's evil in our world, there's murder, there is things that completely cover up on Hashem. Now, so that ozone layer I like this ozone idea that I just thought of because it's like one shell that covers everything. Now, what happens is everything which would mean that anything that comes through the ozone layer comes into our world, right? I'm talking about not in the physical, like the ozone layer that we use, but like in a dimension, anything that gets through from the spiritual dimension into our physical dimension that goes through that ozone layer, that goes through that curtain, it's hiding God, which means it could go either way. Now, the fact is we do see things in our world that are impure, that are prohibited, like pig is prohibited, cannot be used for good. It could only be used, it's not allowed to be eaten. It's impure. Or let's say bad people who live in our world that are doing really bad things. They've gone sort of a step further than the ozone layer kind of covering that we have that just makes it neutral. They're not neutral anymore. They actually became really bad. So, but you're right. So they kind of went through another kind of covering even worse than they were before. It's like the example that I thought to give is like you have gang members, or like let's say you have in Iran or Afghanistan. So like America, or I remember Israel one time where someone gave weapons to a certain group, but then the weapons went from that group to even a worse group, which got to an even worse group, which was actually attacking the Americans themselves. So their guns, I think it maybe happened with Israel. Israel's guns ended up, or America's guns ended up attacking themselves. So what happens is it's because although it went through the first layer, which is neutral, but then neutral could also go through another layer and then make it impure, and it becomes totally evil. But it had the ability to do that because it first went through the first layer that created it to be neutral, and then neutral could be given over to even worse and go down a level. So everything in our world, though, the fact is, had to go through a major set of changes, which everything equally hides Hashem, that it looks neutral, at least. Might not be evil, but it at least looks neutral. Nevertheless, even though everything has to go through that veil, still everything is not equal, and we'll learn about that tomorrow with Hashem's help. Why is it that if everything has to go through that same curtain, why is it that in the person we see that their neshama looks much more connected to Hashem than their body, their real soul, not the soul of the body, not the soul of an inanimate object? But why is it that if everything has to go through the ozone layer, why is it that there are things that look more holy than the other? If everything had to go through the same system of contraction, why is it that some stuff look more contracted than the other? And that we'll discuss tomorrow with Hashem's help. But that's the question we're going to leave you with today. Any questions or comments on today's Tanya? I hope it made sense. I hope I was able to explain it clearly.